the executive session of the Germantown Planning Commission. I appreciate everyone joining us via video. And I am going to turn the executive session over to Sheila Pounders. Sheila?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have two items on the agenda tonight. One is an application for rezoning. The second item is a discussion item concerning proposed text amendments that we would like to bring before the board at the next meeting. The first item is a rezoning application for 7708 Poplar Pike, and it's to rezone a single-family lot from the R3 district to the OG district. The property is 0.33 acres in size. This property, the owner of this property would like to rezone the property to OG, given that all of the property surrounding this site on three sides is currently zoned OG. Only the property to the north across the railroad track remains zoned in the residential district. That property, however, is also owned by the city of Germantown. There was a rezoning on this site in 1990. It was part of an application for 19 parcels of property along Poplar Pike to rezone to the OG district. At that time, the property owner chose to withdraw from the application along with city of Germantown property that was also as part of that 19 lots proposed for rezoning. So the rezoning that was approved by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen at that time only included 17 lots, and this piece was left out of that rezoning application. As you know, there are standards and requirements as given by our code, and also based on the way the state of Tennessee courts have looked at rezoning applications. That information is included in the staff report. Based on the surrounding uses in that area, the rezoning of property that has already occurred, staff is recommending approval of this application. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions, commissioners? Sheila, I think it's fairly straightforward. Do you want to go ahead and cover the items regarding the zoning ordinance?
Yes, just a brief description of what we are proposing to bring before you. As you know, a zoning ordinance provides the bulk regulations for front, rear side setbacks on residential lots and also on commercial lots. However, on residential lots within our zoning ordinance, especially corner lots, there has been some issues with determining what the setbacks on corner lots are. Corner lots are typically, and if you look at the diagram that's in your report, they typically have 2 front yards and 2 side yards. However, our ordinance is written to indicate that on a corner lot, you should have a rear yard that is identified at the time that a building permit is pulled for the construction of the home. Because those building permit records are records through Shelby County government and not through the city of Germantown, city of Germantown doesn't always have access to that information, especially historical information. So when we get a request for an addition to a structure or even to rebuild a structure that may have been demolished from that site, it's very difficult for us to determine where that building permit may have presented that rear yard. We have looked at other ordinances and looking at, there's an example that I included from the Memphis and Shelby County Unified Development Code, which depicts how a corner lot actually should be reflected with the 2 front yards and 2 side yards instead of a rear yard. Most corner lots typically don't have a lot of room on that lot, and especially once you put the easements along those side yards, it takes away quite a bit of the buildable area on the lot. So we're asking to make changes to the ordinance that will clearly clarify what the setbacks are on a corner lot, and that the setbacks for the corner lot be 2 front yards and 2 side yards. That would be depicted as required by the ordinance. So if the ordinance requires a 40-foot front yard, that it would be a 40-foot front yard on both the main street and the side street. And if it requires a 10-foot side yard, you would have 2 10-foot side yards, which would hope in the future alleviate the need for variances for residents that are coming through and trying to either improve their property or just to rebuild on their property. The second part of this ordinance deals with interior lots and the side yard setbacks for those lots. We have seen over the past 5 years that I've been there, numerous of people that want to put their utility equipment in that side yard. Most side yards in the city of Germantown have a 5-foot utility easement. The ordinance requires the residential lot to have a 10-foot, that one side of the residential lot have a 10-foot side yard setback, and then the other side could have a reduced setback. If that setback is reduced and you put a 5-foot utility easement along with that setback, there's difficult in people putting things in that setback that are not allowed. If, as you know, there's no encroachment allowed in an easement area. What we're proposing is a uniform side yard setback for all lots. I've included some diagrams also in the staff report that kind of shows how those interior lots are set up. One of the things that we do know is that we have had an issue because on the plats from old recorded developments, side yard setbacks are not normally shown. They will show utility easement, but not necessarily the side yard setbacks. So if you have staggered side yard setbacks, you cannot tell exactly which side may have been 10 feet, which side may have been less than 10 feet. So that has posed a problem with applicants coming in wanting to, again, put accessory equipment such as pool equipment, AC units, things of that nature within that side yard. What ends up happening a lot of time, they encroach into the easement area, and then they have to go through the utility companies to get those easements released in order to even bring a Board of Zoning Appeal variance before the board to ask for an encroachment into that area. I've also included, there's a Platte Chapel Code subdivision, which was recorded in 2019. That plat shows uniform side yard setbacks, and it also has the 5-foot utility easement. So it gives you the 5-foot area that they can't encroach in, but it also gives you a 5-foot setback area also, so that you maintain the building separation between the two houses, but they're uniform throughout the development, and you don't have staggered setbacks throughout the development. One thing that staff has tried to do is to require all plats that are being recorded at this time for residential lots to actually record the setbacks on the plat, so that we don't have any ambiguity going forward about what the setbacks on the lot may be. I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Commissioners?
Of course, I've got questions. Can you hear me?
Yes, David.
Yeah, I got kicked off there for a second, so I missed some of that. But some of this on page 6, it says, like side yard, there should be required side yards of not less than 100 feet on each side of the lot. And rear yard, there should be a required rear yard. I understand above it says on except on corner lots, but the side yard does not say that. Page 6,
yes,
item 2, side yard.
right.
Am I reading that wrong?
It's okay. Yeah, it says right now all the way through the ordinance. It says one side of the lot must be whatever, either 10, 25, or 100 feet. And what we're saying is that both sides of the lot should be uniform. However, that would allow some the board, whoever the applicant is, could still go before the Board of Zoning Appeal for a variance if they have to go to the board. Right now, if we allow 100 feet on one side and something different on the other side, we won't know what that difference is. Especially, 10 years from now, when someone pulls that plat that they want to do something, then that's the problem that we're having today. And that may be one that you may want to change that completely. It's 100 feet, but that's also within the RE10 district. And that district, if I'm not mistaken, we don't have any property that's actually zone R10 right now.
Okay, I see. It's under RU10. Okay.
Right. I've been trying to include the portions of each section of the residential district where setbacks are called out, so that you can see each section separately. And I've also put all the changes in red to make it easy for you to be able to see. Did you have another
Okay, well,
question, Mr. Clark?
yeah, the same thing on, I guess, on RE down there
Yes.
below page 6. Number 2, that there shall be required side yards of not less than 25 feet on each side of the lot.
Right. That's correct.
Well, that's not the case in a lot of those areas. Is that just you have to get a variance on that?
It's 25 feet on one side. The other side could be less than 25 or it could be more than 25. Unfortunately, we don't know that because the plats were not recorded with setbacks. And if someone wanted to build or do something on their property that would encroach towards that property line, is at that point in time, we would have to do a measurement to figure out exactly what their setbacks is supposed to be versus what type of variance that they need, or even if they need one.
Okay, are we trying to vote on this tonight?
No, sir, this is just to bring it to your attention, to ask you to give us the authority to bring these amendments back to you as an official application for changes.
Okay. That's all I've
Just
got
for
for now.
discussion. Yeah, just for discussion. And I would ask that if you do have some comments or questions after the meeting, please next week after, please send me your emails and I'll be happy to address those or discuss it with you.
Yes, ma'am. While I have the floor or have the screen, can I ask another question?
Sure.
Back on item 1, if that's okay with the chairman, if I go back an item.
Certainly.
Okay. It's just difficult with the screen and everything. There was a letter from a homeowner on that first item, mentioned something about the, let me get back to it, about a widening of the road. Was that addressed or discussed in any way?
The widening of the road, any type of right-of-way dedication or acquisition cannot be taken as part of a rezoning application. This is rezoning only. The applicant would have to come back with a site plan before you could actually acquire any dedication of right-of-way or even a reservation of right-of-way on that plan.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
David is our resident expert in this area on side yards and corner lots. We're going to look to you to kind of go through this thing with a fine-tooth comb, if you will.
Yes, sir. That's why I was asking for just a little time to review that.
Good, good. Other questions, commissioners? Sheila, is there anything else?
No, sir. Let me ask, I do want to ask a question to David, just about procedure-wise. The discussion item, is that something that needs to be discussed on the floor since we talked about it here at executive session, or is it something that the board can determine whether they want us to move forward with reviewing it and bringing it forward?
No, it's fine. It's fine for discussion to just take place at the executive session. There's no action being taken tonight. And the way you've done it's perfectly appropriate. And if you could have anyone, as David Clark suggested, has any comments about it, you'd have an opportunity to consider that before you bring it forward as an actual amendment to the zoning code at a future meeting.
Sounds good.
I do have one, my usual always suggestion, which is when we are on item 1, which seems to be the only item we're going to have, it's rezoning, so you need to give your reasons for rezoning.
Thank you, David Harris. Also, a reminder, when we come back to the issues on the text amendment, that will come back before the subcommittee, before it goes to the full commission.
Correct.
Right.
Sheila, would you like to talk about continuing education?
Of course I do. That's what I do. Yes. I will like to say kudos to Mr. Clark and Mr. Hernandez. They have completed their continuing education hours for the year 2020. Everyone
Sure.
else, I have not received forms from. Please complete your forms and send those back to either me or Sarah as soon as possible. Recently, I sent you an email that had 3 links for webinars. We will continue to do that. Within the next week, I will be sending you a status update concerning your continuing education hours and where you are and what you need to obtain within the next 6 months. If for some reason you have something that I may not have in my record, please let me know.
Thank you, Sheila. Commissioners, any other comments?
No comments.
Mr. Ross, any comments?
Not at this time, beyond just a reminder that, as I stated in my email out to all of you, our electronic meetings have been extended through the end of August. That is still going to apply to any items that we may consider as part of a subcommittee. We'll confer with the chair to see if a subcommittee is necessary based on the applications that we get in. We'll know more by the end of the day tomorrow what the agenda may look like for August Planning Commission. But any plans to bring us back together, we're still working around the available city facilities and safety protocols to make sure that when we do have to come back together at I guess it would be after Labor Day by the calendar. But when we do have to come back together, that we'll be in a place that's as safe as possible and secure as possible for all of us to work with the Planning Commission together on that.
Cameron, is it reasonable to think we're going to have a meeting in August?
Yes, we know we have one application right now. We're reviewing it for its completeness to make sure that it is ready to go to Planning Commission. And the Skinner rezoning has still been held at the applicant's request, waiting for in-person meetings to resume. We'll check with them again to see what their plan is for August.
Very good. Commissioners, any other comments, questions? Alderman Owens, good to see you.
Sorry I'm late.
Glad to have you aboard. If we don't have anything, we've got about 5 minutes to 6, and I assume Tony will be starting the meeting at 6.
Yes, so the meeting will just continue. The broadcast will just continue. So if everyone just stays on mute, then that'll be great. And then when you're ready, just go ahead and start.
Okay, and Cameron, are you going to read your statement?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to you as soon as we start, and then we can go back to the agenda.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Mike,
Yes.
is the mayor and Keith coming tonight?
I don't think so.
Okay,
They indicated they would, but they were not on this part of the meeting, so we'll see.
okay. Thank you.
Sheila? Sheila?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Do we have any public comments?
Yes, sir. On the rezoning application, we have one letter that is in the web page agenda packet from one of the residents in the neighborhood.
Would you, in your presentation, will you mention that?
Yes, sir, I will.
Thank you. Tony, are we ready?
Yes, sir. Ready to proceed when you are.
Good. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the July meeting of the Germantown Planning Commission. We are doing this meeting via video due to the current conditions that we're under. I would like to turn the meeting over to Mr. Cameron Ross, Director of Planning and Development.
Thank you, Chairman Harless. All local governing bodies in the state of Tennessee have been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Germantown is no exception. In an effort to carry out governance and operational responsibilities lawfully and effectively, while also considering the protection of public health, safety, and welfare, the Germantown City Administration has taken steps to conduct these meetings of Board of Mayor and Aldermen, Planning Commission, and other public meetings electronically. These actions were taken in response to Governor Bill Lee's Executive Order number 51, an order that extended the original Executive Order number 16, which was an extended order of number 34, suspending the requirements of the Tennessee Open Meetings Act to the extent necessary to allow governing bodies subject to the act to meet and conduct business by electronic means. The Germantown Board of Mayor and Aldermen, as well as administration, has determined that meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of citizens in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. Further, notice of such electronic meetings has been and will continue to be published in the same manner as currently used for regular meetings. The public is also and will continue to be able to view the agenda and have live access to the actual meetings by electronic means by logging into the city's webpage and clicking on the appropriate links. Video recordings of these meetings will be made available as soon as practicable after each meeting on the city's website at www.germantown-tn.gov. These measures are temporary and are due to expire on August 29th, 2020, unless further action is taken by Governor Lee. Thank you, Chairman Harless. I'll turn the meeting back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Again, ladies and gentlemen, these are unusual times that we're in, and I appreciate your understanding and patience as we go through these unique steps. With that, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Bacon,
Here.
Ms. Hicks,
Here.
Mr. Marsh,
I'm here.
Mr. Hernandez,
Here.
Alderman Owens,
I'm here.
Mr. Clark,
Here.
Chairman Harless.
Here, and we do have a quorum for tonight's meeting. I now need approval of the May minutes. Are there any additions, subtractions, or modifications to the minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Bacon gave a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second. It's Richard Marsh.
And we have a second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Bacon,
Yes.
Ms. Hicks,
Yes.
Mr. Hernandez,
Abstain, I was absent.
Mr. Marsh,
Yes.
Mr. Clark,
Yes.
Alderman Owens,
Yes.
Chairman Harless.
Yes, and we do have approval of the May minutes. We now go into the project meeting, and we have one item on our agenda tonight. This is case number 20-008, a rezoning of 7708 Poplar Pike from two-family residential to Old Germantown. Do we have a staff presentation?
Yes, sir. I am going to share my screen with you. And it's just not showing. Give me just a moment to pull this up. Can everyone see this? Can everyone see the presentation now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before you tonight is a rezoning application for a property located at 7708 Poplar Pike in Old Germantown. The applicant is requesting rezoning of this property from R3 to, which is a two-family residential district, to OG, which is the Old Germantown district. Before you is the zoning map for the property. The property in question is hatched in red, so that it highlights the property and shows you the zoning on all three sides, which is OG, and also the property that is north of the railroad track, which is R3. The property before you in the rezoning request does comply with Germantown Forward 2030 and economic development strategic objective number 2, economic development policies encourage investment in key commercial areas. This is Old Germantown, which we do consider a key commercial area because of the different uses that are permitted within the area. This property has a existing single family home on it. It was built in 1958. The property has been zoned this R3 and it dates back to 1990 when the Board of Mayor and Aldermen did look at rezoning this piece of property along with other properties in this area. So that R3 has been there for quite some time. The new owner wants to rezone this property to OG so that he can convert the residential structure to a single family use. This is an area of the property. As you can see, there's a single family home located just to the west of the property. There's offices located to the south and to the east of the site, and to the north of the site across the railroad track is property owned by the city of Germantown. This is a survey of the property. The owner does not intend to remove the existing home on the property, so as per the ordinance, this survey will also serve as his proposed concept plan, and that he intends to convert the existing dwelling to a office use. He will be required to apply for a change of use as part of this application as the next step, I should say, in this application process. This process first requires the rezoning of the property to a use that is permitted within that district, and OG will allow him to have an office use within the district. This is the 1990 rezoning vicinity map that I spoke of earlier. As you can see, the properties are all laid out, and it shows you the different properties that were before the Board of Mayor and Alderman in 1990. This property, which is in yellow and has an X across it, is a site that was removed from the rezoning request in 1990 and remained R3, while the remaining properties was rezoned to the OG district. Per section 2366 of the municipal code, you can change a zoning district on the property under the provision that wherever the public is necessary and convenient general welfare or good zoning practice justifies such actions. This is also based on whether the change includes that the zoning is unwise, unjust, or erroneous, and that there was a mistake in zoning, or if there has been a change in the neighborhood. The Tennessee court has established what those criteria to look at a change in neighborhood are. And they are, one, changes in the population, both the area proposed to be rezoned and in surrounding areas. Two, changes in existing road patterns or traffic, including traffic volumes, also included in the development of new roadways in the vicinity. Three, the need for rezoning based upon changes in whatever is classified as the neighborhood, which may not necessarily be limited to what one would think as a relatively concise area, and which may include changes in population development trends and existing character of nearby properties and are changes that have occurred in the character of nearby properties. And then four, the effect of the requested change in zoning on adjacent and nearby properties. As previous spoken, this property is surrounded by OG on three sides. Properties along Poplar Pike in this area has converted from residential to office and in some cases to restaurant uses. We believe that the zoning is in keeping with the character of the area, and we're recommending approval of the rezoning. Also, I will mention that we received one letter from the public on this application. That letter was included in your agenda packet for the online packet information that you received. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Commissioners, questions for staff?
Sheila, this is George. I did not see that letter from the individual. Could you just give us a thumbnail sketch of what that said?
Yes, sir. The resident was concerned about the properties in the area converting from residential uses and not having the adequate right-of-way width on Poplar Pike for the increased traffic. She asked that with this application, we make sure that we do get the right-of-way to widen the road for Poplar Pike in this area. And I will say to the board in stating that this is a rezoning application. This is not a site plan review. Right-of-way dedication or reservation is not taken with a rezoning application. It is only done when you review a site plan, either as a subdivision or as a plan development, or either just a site plan for that property. That will be a second step if the applicant seeks to change the property.
Other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Mayor?
Mr. Chairman, it's Mike Palazola. I came on the meeting call about 6:02. So just for the record, I want to make sure that I've been established as present and for a quorum. Also, at this time, I'd just like to say that I will be recusing myself on this particular item. I live in what I would call the old, actually, I'm not technically in old Germantown, but I live in walking distance to this property. And just because of that, I feel that I need to recuse myself. So I just want to state that for the record. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate you being on the call. Commissioners, any other questions?
Chairman Harless, I have a question. This is Alderman Owens here.
Alderman?
Ms. Pounders, could you enlighten us? I know the Design Review Commission typically reviews the site plan when it comes before them in terms of really kind of takes the planning commission out of the equation unless requested by the design review commission, and sort of enlighten the board or the commission on what we have done in the past as far as right-of-way dedication and improvements to that area.
Yes, Alderman Owens, as part of the process, maybe if I just kind of go through the process for property that's converted in that area. The first change for property in that area is to go through what is called a change of use. A change of use can be done in two ways. If it is a manner change from one use to another, the ordinance does allow the planning director to also make that call as an administrative review. However, we have sought to take those applications to the Design Review Commission to make the decision, especially when we're looking at restaurants, something of a very heavy intense use, more so than just a residential. From that point, the applicant is required to submit a site plan if they're making major changes on the site, adding parking, changing the building facade, anything of that nature. If there's right-of-way dedication required, if there are right-of-way improvements required, such as additional street pavement or sidewalks, anything of that nature, we will take that to the Design Review Commission. And in some cases, depending on what is being required and the intensity of the use, we will recommend to the Design Review Commission that we take that application to the Planning Commission, first through TAC, which is our Technical Review Commission, to look at it and make recommendations and comments, and then to the Planning Commission, so that the Planning Commission gets to look at the site plan and make decisions about whether the site plan is adequate and the adequate services are there before the Design Review Commission actually acts on it. In this case, because we're going from a single family home to a small office business, this will go to the Design Review Commission for approval. But I don't know whether it will go to the Planning Commission. That will be something that is determined by the site plan once it comes in and we make a determination on it. Also, I will add too that if there is a contract to be required on a project, it will automatically send that to the Planning Commission also.
Thank you. And so in the neighboring properties, adjacent properties, have we required in the past dedication, improvements, payment in lieu of improvements, anything like that when they changed to use from residential to
Yes, sir. We have required it, but we required it with the site plan review, not with the change of use itself, but with the site plan review, because it is a two-step process.
Understood. So we have, okay, and that's what I was just trying to get at is to let the resident know, or the person who wrote a letter, that we would look at this, the Design Review Commission rather would look at this and make the determination at that time if right-of-way improvement, right-of-way dedication, those types of things were appropriate. Thank you.
That's correct.
Thank you, Alderman. Commissioners, other questions of staff? Sheila, thank you very much. Would the applicant like to make a presentation?
Good afternoon, everyone. No, actually, I don't have any presentation. I appreciate all of you giving me the opportunity to be part of Germantown. We have enjoyed the gym, the library. My kids have gone to Houston High, Houston Middle, Farmington. I'm blessed to be part of this great city. At this time, I don't have anything except a small request that I would like to make my CPA office here. I don't have any employees at this time. So Sheila has been helping me with all the paperwork that is required, and I don't have any presentation or questions at this time. Unless you guys have any, I'll be happy to answer.
Very good, sir. Would you mind stating your name and address for the record?
Sure. My name is Abhay Bhargav. The property address is 7708 Poplar Pike, Germantown, Tennessee 38138. And I live on Houston Levy Road in Orbital Farms, which is border of Germantown and Collierville.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you being on the call with us.
My pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Commissioners, We don't have a public forum, so are there questions from you? We're open for public discussion among the commissioners now.
No.
If
No
not, do
questions.
we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, the zoning and annexation subcommittee did not meet to discuss this request due to the current state and local prohibition on public gatherings. The proposed motion this evening is the approval to rezone a 0.33 acre parcel located at 7708 Poplar Pike from R3 two-family residential to OG Old Germantown, subject to comments and conditions listed above and in the staff report and the plans and documents submitted with the application.
Commissioner Bacon, thank you for the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second from Commissioner Marsh. Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, we'll call the roll. Remember, we need a reason for your vote.
Mr. Bacon,
Mr. Chairman, I'm voting to approve this application primarily because I think it's in direct keeping with the existing character of the neighborhood in the existing area, given that on the east and the west and the south, those land areas are currently zoned OG presently. So I'm voting to approve this application.
Mr. Clark,
Yes, I too will be voting yes in favor of this application. Just the surrounding areas zoned OG on 3 sides, as Mr. Bacon said. Those are my reasons for voting yes.
Mr. Hernandez,
I'm also voting in favor. I think the map that Ms. Pounder showed us earlier of the 1990 rezoning of all 19 other surrounding properties makes it very clear that the character of the nearby community neighborhood has changed, and I think this one fits very well with that.
Ms. Hicks,
I'm glad we could respect the previous owner's desire to keep it R3, but the neighborhood has certainly changed, and this rezoning is consistent with what's happening beside it. So I vote yes.
Mr. Marsh,
Yes, I'm going to vote yes as well for the same reasons, the character and nature of that area all along Poplar Pike, as that's changed to more business-oriented uses. This is the most appropriate zoning at the present time.
Alderman Owens.
I'll also vote in the affirmative based on the reasons my fellow commissioners have stated previously, and I wish Mr. Bhargava the best of luck in his new accounting business.
Thank you so much.
Mayor Palazzolo.
Recuse myself from the vote. Thank you.
Okay, Chairman Harless.
I also am voting yes for the reasons stated. And again, this was the one property that wasn't OG, and now we're making it OG in conjunction with the other 18 properties. So I vote yes. With that, the project is approved, and we wish you the very best. Thank you. Moving on in our agenda, do we have any old business? Any staff liaison reports? Any new business? If not, we stand adjourned. I thank everyone for being in attendance. Have a good one.
Thanks, everybody. It's good to see you.